You see, now that's the kind of movie that the WB and DC need to make. Leave that kiddie crap for Disney. Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So this review is going to be about Todd Phillips's 2019 film Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, Zazie Beetz, and Robert De Niro, and several other actors whose names I can't remember right now. Straight off the bat, this is one of the best movies I've seen all year. Okay, like hands down. And I regret calling it a movie because it really is more like a film. I can see why it won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival or Toronto Film Festival. One of those film festivals, it won top prize, and I can see why. You'll see why when you go see it. The movie is brilliant. It's brilliantly done. It's brilliantly edited. It's brilliantly directed. The whole setting for Joker's origin, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, there's Arthur Fleck. Oh, it's just too good. So, in order to avoid spoilers, I'm not going to go through the movie like I do with a lot of other movies. I'm just going to point out the things that stuck out to me. The movie does borrow, expertly I say, from other films as Robert De Niro's and Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy from the early 70s, where Robert De Niro plays a guy named Rupert Pupkin, I believe his name was. And Pupkin in that movie is a bit of an annoying, he's a bit of an annoying idiot really, but he is hell-bent on becoming a comedian, and and Dick Van Dyke is it Dick Van Dyke? No, it's what's the guy? Nutty Professor guy. He plays talk show host, kind of like a Johnny Carson type that Rupert Pupkin idolizes and really wants to be on the show. He really wants to. Anyway, the movie is about a stalker basically going after a celebrity, and it actually seems to apply very well to the modern age. It still holds up very, very well. So Joker borrows from that. It also borrows from The Killing Joke, in which Joker tries to convince Batman and Jim Gordon that all that separates them from him is just one very bad day. and Joker, Arthur Fleck, has many, many very bad days, and it's rough for him. So, and then the other thing that it borrows from is The Dark Knight Returns Part 2. Now I won't explain that because that'll be a spoiler for the movie. So it borrows from The Killing Joke, The King of Comedy, and The Dark Knight Returns. Now, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker in this movie, I mean, Arthur Fleck, he is a person who has a mental illness, I believe, but then the movie keeps it such a mystery as to whether or not he does have a mental illness. And so starting out, I assume that, okay, the movie did have him as a mental illness because part of his recalling of his origin was that he was in a mental hospital. Okay, and also that idea is reinforced by his mother that he's a little bit different, etc. But then later on in the movie, you learn something contrary to that idea that might contradict it, and it might prove it to be wrong. And then, so maybe he doesn't have a mental illness, it's just how he is, but it's done in such a great way that it kept me questioning whether or not he did have a mental illness or not. You gotta go see it in order to understand what I'm trying to talk about here. So that whole character detail is a through line through the whole movie, and it plays into his character and everything that he does and how he interacts with people. Another thing of note is how he slowly becomes the Joker in these various, I'd have to call them transformation scenes. Todd Phillips doesn't just have him slowly start to, laugh maniacally, because like I said, the laugh is already part of his character. So he does, I don't know if it was Phillips's idea or Joaquin's idea, but at these integral scenes, the integral stages in his life, Joker does this thing that kind of signals that he's becoming more and more out of his shell, more and more of a free psychopath, really. The other thing that stood out to me was the great storytelling, the awesome storytelling. Despite the fact that it borrowed from, you know, The King of Comedy and The Killing Joke and The Dark Knight Returns Part 2, it used those elements in those movies in order to tell this awesome story of, first with Arthur Fleck and his problems, and then problems with him and his people and the people around him, and then the problem with him and society in general, you know, i.e. Gotham City, and how his problems eventually becomes everyone else's problems. And he does have sort of his own villain in the movie, and I won't reveal who that is because that'd be a huge spoiler, but you can kind of see why he doesn't like this person in the movie. It kind of makes sense to him and to you as an audience member. And like any good storyteller, Todd Phillips makes you sympathize with this bad person in the beginning, right? Until you realize later on, oh yeah, he's a complete monster. Maybe doesn't deserve my sympathy. And I know there was a lot of talk, you know, outside of the movie about, oh, you know, you shouldn't have people trying to sympathize with bad people. And it's like, well, people sympathize with Dexter all the time. That guy was a serial killer, right? I sympathize with Dexter. People sympathize with Walter White, and he was a terrible person because he started out doing something good, right? But then he turned out to be a horrible individual, just doing the most terrible things. But that's how complicated characters are written, right? That's how you know that, wow, this person does horrible things, but I still kind of see where they're coming from. That's how you know the character is written with excellent just ideas and concepts, right? That's a great character writing right there. And also Jax Teller, from one of my favorite shows, Sons of Anarchy. Awful guy, does awful things, but I still kind of like, I get it, Jax. I get what you're doing. You're doing terrible things, but I kind of understand it. That's what you call great characters. They're not just, I'm a bad guy, that's all there is to me, you know? And the only other comparison I can make would be to Disney's Loki, right? Although he's not really a bad guy, he's kind of like I don't know what he is. Well, I guess bad example. So yeah, the storytelling is just amazing. It weaves in everything of Arthur Fleck's character and his personality into the wider audience, and how he eventually feels and sees himself just lines up perfectly with the Joker that we all know. It's just so good. It's just so good. I'd consider this to be the movie of the year, but I haven't seen Parasite yet, so I'll have to hold off judgment on that for a couple more weeks until that comes out. Joker is definitely up there, top 3 for sure. Yeah, without giving out any spoilers, I can't really say much more. Just go see it, immediately. It's a slow burn, but it's a good kind of slow burn because it's paced like expertly. And the thing with the laugh, the explanation for the laugh, it's just awesome. Go see it, go see it, go see it, go see it, go see it. Okay, bye.
Send in the clowns.
So the only thing that I did not like about the movie had nothing to do with the movie, and that was the police presence that I saw when I went into the theater and left it. And I know I made a video on it last week about the external noise surrounding this movie. It was making everything seem as if you go see this movie, there's a likelihood that you'll start a riot or maybe you want to go and murder people. And I guess the media and the government don't realize that people have thoughts of their own. You can think for yourself and kind of make up your own decisions about things. I don't know. So seeing those cops there made me think that they were trying to make it sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, where if you say, oh, there's going to be trouble there, and then you send law enforcement there, and if there's trouble there, you can say, oh, well, glad there's law enforcement there to stop the trouble. And if there's law enforcement there and nothing happens, you'd be like, well, nothing happened because there was law enforcement there. So it's just a movie. It's not that serious, really. It is just a movie. It's a great film, but it's just a movie. Not that big a concern. And the other thing was that if it was such a major concern about what people might do at the end of this movie, or as a result of this movie, or I should say, use this film as an excuse for what they do, right? First of all, there were plenty of programs, social programs that were focused on helping mentally ill people. The government, the federal government, cut a lot of social programs that included that help for mentally ill people. And then the federal government also made it easier for mentally ill people to get their hands on weapons. So when a mass shooting happens, right, they say, oh, of course, mentally ill person did this. Oh, thoughts and prayers. But then they also say, there's nothing we can do, so let's just send police to a movie theater. I mean, you don't have to be crazy to see how much sense that makes, right?